Hi, my name is Sanjay Golapudi, and this is my game, Find That Sequence. The main educational purpose of this game is to teach students how to find sequences when looking through a board of numbers. Math might be daunting, but here's a game that shows you how to have fun with numbers. So here's my home panel, as you can see here, and there's 3 buttons, or 4 buttons: easy, medium, hard, and settings and directions. Let's click settings and directions. Here we have a text area which contains all of our directions, such as sequences must have a length of 3 or more. You must use adjacent tiles when creating sequences. In common ratios and differences must be greater than 1. It also contains the types of sequences that are allowed when making tiles or connecting tiles in my actual board. There's also a back button which sends you back to the home panel. Now we're back at the home panel. Let's choose a mode. How about easy? In this panel we have a grid of tiles or buttons. We have our countdown timer. We have 2 buttons, enter and reset. The reset button takes all the pink buttons, as you can see on the board, and turns them back to the original color, white. This is so the user doesn't have to lose precious time clicking and unclicking buttons when they want to unclick or they want to change their mind. The next button is the enter button. This stores and enters a sequence when they make one. So if you make a sequence 1, 2, 4, geometric sequence, you press enter and it'll be stored. Let's try to find some more sequences. 1, 3, 9, a geometric sequence. 1, 3, 5, an arithmetic sequence. 1, 2, 4, 7, which is called the lazy caterer sequence. So we try to find some more sequences, but let's say the user enters an incorrect one. It's 2, 9, 20. That's not a sequence, obviously, but let's say the user presses enter. So as the results panel shows up, you see that we entered 5 sequences, but we only got 4 out of 7. That's because our last sequence we entered was entered incorrectly. The results are in the text area, and you can press the play again button to go back. This is one area in my code where I use an array. In this case, I use a 2D array, so I can store data for rows and columns. Each tile, which is a combination of a row and a column, is a button, and we also add an action listener. We also use a for loop to do this because we need the size of each board, but this varies based on each level that the user selected. For example, if the easy mode is selected, that means the size is 3 and you'll get a 3x3 grid and only 9 tiles. But if the level selected is medium, the size is 4 and you get a 4x4 or 16 tiles. And same with 5, a 5x5 and 25 tiles selected. So we need to use a loop and the parameters I less than size and j less than size so we can generate and generalize for each level of selection that the user chooses. We then add this counter ij to an overall. In this area of my code, I use text files. I have 2 text files, one for my boards and one for my answers. When making my boards by hand, I emphasize my mentor's, Miss Bana's point of making patterns recognizable, but also not making the game too hard. You want to make some sequences easy to find because it can boost players' morale, but then you don't want to make it too easy because you kind of want to have a challenge for the player. The text in these boards are read through by my code, and then each number you see, such as 542 in board 1, are put into certain tiles of my board. The answers file is read through and put into the results file. In this area of my code, I use the math method math.random to create 3 different variables depending on different levels of difficulty. I did this because I wanted to have a random board selected and displayed for my user. In order to do this, I save this random number, and based on the level of difficulty selected, my code reads through my game.txt file and finds the board starting with the specific number randomly chosen. This way, boards are randomly selected and everything is fair and fun. In this area of my code, I use the button method getSource to find which button my player pressed in my grid of tiles. Using this information, I go through the same for loop as explained earlier and change the color of the button pressed to magenta. If the color is already magenta, then the color turns to white if the button is selected and then unselected right after that. When I evaluated my 3 peers, I noticed they weren't following some rules or directions that I had envisioned for my game. During or after the evaluation, I questioned them and asked them why they weren't following any of the directions or rules I had specified. They said my directions were very broad, they were very confusing and hard to follow. And so I used this feedback and made my directions more specific and easier to understand, hopefully letting my users have a great time.